Hey, it's Joe. Welcome back. Just want to let you know where you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Joe Ryan. On the web, joeryan.com. If you're struggling and you're trying to work through your false self, your family system role, trying to get unstuck, I do offer coaching. That's at joeryan.com/coaching. If you want to find all my social, YouTube, Twitter, all that other fun stuff, you can go to joeryan.com/links. We can't have authenticity without vulnerability. It's a fact. It's a hard reality. Who of us wants to be vulnerable, open ourselves up, put ourselves out there, open ourselves up to loss, to hurt, to heartache, to disappointment? Can't get to where we want to be until we can learn how to be vulnerable. And that is frightening. Most of us came from a place where vulnerability was not an option. It was walled up. It was fear. We want that connection. We want that emotional connection with other human beings. We want that emotional connection with ourselves. I find it impossible to be vulnerable with another human being until I've learned how to be more vulnerable with myself. And that is frightening because I have to see the truth of me. We have to see who we really are. What makes us tick. You live in that false self and you pretend and, nice person, people pleaser, cautious, scanning the room, managing the nervous system. All of these things keep us from the vulnerability. It's going into those feelings and that pain and that fear within ourselves to actually see who we truly are. See, when I was in my false self, I was comfortable and confident because I projected this image that I needed to project. I needed to be seen a certain way. I wasn't going to let you see who I truly was because inside I just feel like an unlovable, worthless piece of shit. And why would I want to show that off? So all of those feelings I just buried. And I created this image unknowingly to survive. It's hard walking through every day of your life feeling worthless and not good enough. So to combat that, to not feel that, I pretended I was more than I was. I only showed you what I wanted you to see. And if I ever got close enough to somebody, I would leave because I didn't want them to see what I knew was underneath all of that. See, what I thought was under it was just worthless and self-hate and shame and not good enough. But below all of that is something real and genuine, and that's who you are underneath it all. But I'm not comfortable there. We're not comfortable there because we've never lived there. We've never shown anybody. We've never shown ourselves our true being because it was too painful to let go of the false self. See, the false self is there to protect you from the bad feelings that arise. So to get underneath those, to get rid of the false self, you have to go into those feelings and you have to sit with them and you have to understand them and you have to manage them and you have to work through the nervous system going off the charts. You have to work through the obsessive thoughts, the negative tapes that run in your head. So you're going to have to put yourself in painful feelings to dismantle that false self. You're going to have to go against the only thing that ever felt right and safe to get underneath that. And to do that, we have to become vulnerable. And vulnerability is truth. And we don't want the truth because the truth is frightening and it's scary and it hurts. But when you can start owning who you are by being vulnerable with yourself, you're building strength because you don't have to fear those feelings anymore. You don't have to fear being seen. I know I'm an insecure mess a lot of the times. I know I have anxiety. I know I have fears. I know I have panic. And as a man, I never want to show that to anybody, especially a woman. There's an image that you need to portray. And it's exhausting to portray that constantly. And most of us don't even know we're doing it. I don't want to be seen because if I feel like you see one flaw, you're going to leave. Because life from where I came from was you had to live it perfectly, and one mistake and you were out. And then you felt like you had to work your way back in with worth and value to be appreciated and to be loved and to be cared for. But you had to become something that somebody else wanted. It's not what you wanted. You just wanted to be you, but being you wasn't okay. It's learning how to be okay with yourself. It's learning how to understand why you are the way you are and what had happened that had changed you, and undo that. There are great rewards in vulnerability. There is an intimacy level that you can get to within yourself where you are comfortable in your own skin, where you can start to share that with others. See, I want to show up perfect and shiny and glossy with no flaws. But that's not real. It is the flaws. It is the scars. It is the hurt. It is the things that you're not good at. Those are the places where you want to start living. You want to start acknowledging the ways that you are that are not good for yourself and for the people around you, the way you protect yourselves and how it hurts the other people around you because you're walled off and you're not letting them in because you haven't let yourself in. I fear vulnerability tremendously, but fearing it keeps me away from it, so I have to learn how to embrace it. See, if I express how I feel like I'm giving somebody way more power and control over me. Because in vulnerability, there's neediness, there's wants, there's no protection. It is being honest and real and true and genuine. And when you are those ways, you've opened yourself up to being hurt. But avoiding it never heals it. So much of this work going forward is about being vulnerable. See, we don't want to be seen, right? So I am who I am, and I get punished, or I get hit, or I get humiliated, or I get abandoned, or I'm betrayed for it. I don't like those feelings. You don't like those feelings, so we don't go into those places. The problem is we have a wall around us. And we're not letting anybody in, and we're not showing ourselves. And we live in this very closed off, isolated, fearful place. Being vulnerable is taking a chance. See, if I didn't react so poorly to hurt and disappointment and loss, vulnerability would be just so much easier than it is. I've experienced too much of that in my life. I've filled my quota with betrayal, hurt, and disappointment that I feel like I can't handle anymore. So I stay in this role, in this place of protection, so that I never feel those things again because I don't know how to manage them when they come up. I'm so hurt and devastated. It hits me so hard. And I understand it intellectually. But it's not changing it emotionally unless I sit and try to manage it and not fall apart, not wall up, not get angry, not fall into helplessness, not fall into worthlessness. And that's hard. It's like you're free falling from the Freedom Tower. There's no way to stop it when you start going down. Gravity takes over. That's what it's like emotionally when we're triggered. We don't understand why we get this feeling of fear, dread, and panic within inside of us. We don't know how to manage it. We want to know that we're okay, but we don't know how to make ourselves okay. And there's the work. It's parenting yourself, telling yourself that you're okay, that you're not worthless because you're triggered and your needs aren't being met. See, it's about meeting our own needs. I don't have the ability to cut off. I mean, I'm really, truly shitty and poor at that. Once I get triggered and I start spiraling, it's hard not to fall into that abyss. Some people know how to cut off, and I envy them. I really, truly do. But the rewards of vulnerability are beyond anything I could have ever imagined. The way you start to connect with other humans feels amazing because it's real and it's not a game and it's not a strategy. That's too much work. That's too much effort. If it doesn't feel right, you shouldn't be there. If it's feeling disrespectful, you shouldn't be there. You want to be with people who you can work through these things with. See, we all come from different places, and we all have our false self and our rules and our rituals and the things that keep us safe. It's letting go or working through the things that keep us safe and learning how to be safe and comfortable without them. And there's no easy answer here. I didn't date for 3 years because I was a fucking mess. Like, I could not handle any more loss in my life. We are only as joyful and as happy as the amount of loss we feel we can handle. If I feel like I can't handle any loss, I am not going to introduce anything new in my life. That's good. That's worth it. Because if I can't handle the loss and it goes away, I'm back to that devastated place. If I get to a place where I can handle loss, I can open up. I can be vulnerable. I can let people in. I can be seen by others. And I can take those chances. I don't deal with loss well. And I've had a lot of it in my life. And I don't avoid the feelings of it anymore. I used to pretend it was like I put my fingers in my ear and go, la, 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 it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. There's no chance, I'm just going to pretend. When you become more aware, you start to pay attention to what comes up in your body and those reactions. And you learn how not to push people away. You learn how not to withdraw. You learn how not to wall off. You go inside and you figure out why you're reacting that way. And you don't blame others. You accept that it's there. You work through it the best you can. See, for me, when I start to feel loss, I panic. It's an uncontrollable response that scares the shit out of me and takes me back to that 7-year-old where those feelings lived every single day, multiple times a day. I was loved for 20 minutes and I was abandoned for 4 hours. I was loved for an hour and a half and I was abandoned for 2 days. It was constant. So I don't want to get close to parts of me. I like and feel like I need that constant connection where I know that I'm okay with others in my life. And when that emotional connection doesn't feel like it's there, I go back to that little boy who was helpless and his life and survival depended on the people who would pop in love and pop out with abandonment. So for me, when that feeling and that connection isn't there, I just go to worthlessness. And it's learning how to work through those worthless feelings and realize that no matter what connections are there or not there, your value does not go up and down. It stays the same. We keep pushing through. We keep working the feelings because the life we want is a life of connection We want to be connected and not fearful. The fear of the connection is the loss. It's the hurt. If we can learn how to not fear the loss and learn how to accept what comes in and out of our lives become so much easier. This is a core wound for me. This is the bottom. It's a weakness. I fucking hate it. I have no control over it most of the time. It takes me hours and days to work through it to get to the point where my self-worth comes back and I realize that I am going to be okay no matter what. But it's the time that's in between that is so difficult and so painful, and it's so hard to articulate. If we could name it, if we can understand it, if we can get in there and just make ourselves okay and stop that spiral sooner rather than later, life becomes so much easier. But you can't do this work isolated. See, I can't figure out friendships and relationships and how to be in them if I'm sitting home thinking about them in fear. I have to get into them. And it's surprising when you get into relationships, what comes up that you didn't know was there. You can't know they're there unless you get into a relationship, because they're not going to come up if there's no intimacy. If there's no chance of hurt or loss or abandonment, you can try to think your way through it, but it's not going to happen. It's managing them as they come up. Getting out and being seen is so important. Sometimes we get to go out and it's too much and we have to retreat. But start practicing. Start putting yourself out there. Start being vulnerable with yourself and get in touch with those feelings. It's so much easier to start dealing with them on your own. But at some point you have to get out and deal with them with somebody else. And man, they come up hard. They come up fast and they come up unexpected. It is like getting hit in the back of the head with a bat when you're not ready. And then you're just laying there on the floor in pain. And it's managing that pain. It's managing that hurt. It's managing that fear. And we never really take the time to look at the other person's point of view. What it's like for them, where they came from. You see, the way they are, if it goes against what we feel is important to us, we take it personally and we internalize it. Where the person on the other end is going through just as much as you are. It's communicating about it. It is common ground. It's finding the common ground. This is where we need to start being open and real and honest and genuine and vulnerable, so that we can navigate the two places that we had come from, so we can find common ground. And coming from where I come from, I don't feel like I have a right to speak up. I don't feel like I have a right to ask for my needs and wants. I don't feel like I have the right to put my issues on somebody else. But if we don't talk about it, the relationship's going to end. So the vulnerability of opening yourselves up and saying, I am weak in this area and I need to build strength. But when I get triggered, I go into fear and it's hard to work it through. I don't want to be more than you can handle. And I don't want you to be less than what I need. And how do we manage that? How do we get to that place where I have to start dealing with certain feelings and you're going to have to start dealing with certain feelings? How do you talk about that? We have no model for how to do this. And this is where the fear starts to kick in. Because if the other person tells me what they need and I can't give it, or if I tell them what I need and they can't give it, where do we go from there? Both people have to learn how to be vulnerable. They need to learn how to bend. And they need to learn how to find common ground. Common ground in relationships are so important. Understanding what makes you tick so that you can articulate it in a way that the other person doesn't feel defensive, that doesn't take it personally. See, listen, all of us want just, be who I need you to be so I don't ever feel uncomfortable. It's not realistic. We have to do the work, but when you're in it together with somebody and you want to make a go of it and you've committed yourself to each other, the commitment doesn't stop because issues will continually come up. The closer and the deeper you get with each other, the more you're going to discover things about yourself. And you have that choice. You can pretend it's not there. You can try to manage it on your own. You can react how you react and keep triggering each other. Or you can get in there and get your hands dirty and go to that place of fear and go to that place of vulnerability. And you can find the common ground to move forward together. Thanks for listening. You can contact me at joeryan.com. Follow me on Instagram at joeryan. And if you want, you can leave us a review on iTunes. That'd be great. All right, take care.